y'all? It's Test from Podcast back in this bitch.
Caught me off guard. What's good? What's good?
Oh man, let's get right to it though. We're here to talk about the Nets. It's goddamn Nets, man. It's these moves they're making. I don't know. I don't see the reason in getting Andre Drummond. I don't see the reason really in Blake Griffin, but all right, if you want to kind of build your bench up, cool. But do you think he's really going to want to come off the bench? Granted, his injuries and all this shit. Do you think he's really going to want to come off the bench? I don't think so. But then again, maybe he might. I think their chemistry right now is actually really good. I think they're, taking care of business as far as on the court goes. I want to put this out there before. Well, granted, it's already been said, but I don't think they're doing this because of LeBron. I really don't think they're doing any of this because of LeBron. I think they're really just doing it because they have the opportunity to grab any players that are available, and I think that's the only reason why. I think they're fine without these two extra players being thrown in the mix. I do think it's going to probably throw chemistry out because DeAndre Drummond's no way a shooter, even though he's worked on his three. He's no way a shooter at all. He's barely I would say he's more of a postman in the sense that just because he has moves, but he is kind of an undersized postman, I would say, as far as in today's NBA.
Yeah, no, I like Andre Drummond. I think he's actually a good piece. He brings defense, rebounding, interior D. I think he's kind of a perfect complement piece to a championship roster. But what makes it, I think it is flabbergastingly funny that not everybody, but people are saying they're doing this because of LeBron. I agree. I think that's asinine. I think, like you said, they're plucking people that are coming on the market and people are ring chasing. In a sense, I get why Blake Griffin's doing it. I get why Andre Drummond would go there because there's only a handful of teams in this era that can win a championship right now. And when you got three dudes averaging 150 points by themselves, if you're a role player, why not go and you have like no pressure? You can go and potentially win a ring, and then go get a payday after that, or whatever. But a lot of these guys have already been paid. But I think Andre Drummond, it's ironic because they got rid of Jarrett Allen, who's basically the same player, to now get Andre Drummond. If he does end up going there at the time of this recording, I don't think anything's official.
Not yet.
But Blake Griffin, we were just talking before off air about, just the case he hasn't dunked in a handful of years. I don't think that makes him a bad basketball player. I think whether he's not trying to get injured or he's trying to prove that he's more than just a dunker, I do think he still can contribute to a team and he can stretch the floor. And then if they run a smaller lineup, he can run the five potentially, and then still stretch the floor out and have five shooters still on the court. But talk about legacies. What does this do for Kevin Durant, James Harden? Why do we need to load an already big three front loaded team with even more former all-star caliber role players? Why are we doing, there's no parity, but what does that do to Kevin Durant in the big three, you think?
Yeah. So out of all the players, it definitely affects Kevin Durant the most. Let me start from who it doesn't affect really and why real quick. Kyrie, he was already played with LeBron. We've seen him as the number two, and on this team, he's definitely a number 2 or 3, depending on give or take who's on and who's off. So Kyrie's he's fine. I don't think his ego will let him be okay with it, but his legacy is going to be okay. He's already set in stone what his legacy is as far as being a number 2, now maybe 3 on a team. And that's perfectly fine. I mean, he's a great player and he makes an impact. So I don't think that's anything like a knock on Kyrie. Blake Griffin, that doesn't, his legacy, he's lost a lead, a 3-1 lead with with the Clippers. Went to Detroit, didn't do anything. So this would only help him. DeAndre Drummond, I don't think it affects him really much. I think it only helps his. Just like I would say Dwight Howard. Granted, I think Dwight Howard's probably a better back then defensive player in a sense because he did win those multiple defensive player of the year. So I think this does help Andre Drummond in the sense that it just is what it is. Now to James Harden and Kevin Durant. I think this affects James Harden a lot because he did he was an MVP. He did take his team at least to the Western Conference Finals, whether he had Chris Paul or not. They were still went to the Western Conference Finals and lost to the Golden State Warriors. I think this really does affect them. Yeah, he could be all this great scoring, this, that, and this, but as far as a winner, we've seen him break down in clutch moments in the playoffs. And for this to combine to this, I think this does definitely affect his legacy as far as being a go-to player. Okay, point guard stuff, that's different because we can see he's definitely more – he definitely looks like he feels more comfortable playing the one instead of also being the one and the two at the same time. But it's definitely going to affect his legacy in a harsh way, I feel. And now Kevin Durant. Man, I thought maybe if it was just him and Kyrie on this and they won the title, I think that changed a little bit of his narrative. And maybe if he won 2 or 3, then his narrative, I think, definitely switches. I thought his legacy with the James Harden thing trade. Now, I think that, granted, it's a trade, whatever. I do think, though, that this affects it big time because we've seen him just go to a 72 and 73 and 19 and win 2 titles, and we're still giving him shit for it, which is valid for what I'm saying. It perfectly makes sense why. Right. You're supposed to beat this team the following year, but you just kind of went to them and then won 2 chips right off the back with ease, mind you. Now it looks like you might do it again with technically 6 All-Stars on a roster. That there's no, like you said, there's no narrative. There's nothing behind it. There's no, I feel like, no rah-rah for you to really want to come together and strive to be something great. I thought maybe if he didn't get hurt in OKC and Golden State and they did 3-peat, okay, now I think we have a different conversation, just in the sense that, okay, it was a dynasty. This is the first 3-peat since the Lakers back in 2000, 2003, or 2000, or 2000, 2002. So maybe some narrative would have changed there, but nah, I think this really affects him a lot as far as his legacy being an all-time great. If we're going to go by stats, okay, cool. We'd probably be top 10, top 15. But I think as far as legacy overall, this is definitely going to hurt. And I think this probably pushes him to probably, and this is a big leap, but probably top 30, maybe top 35, in a sense that you probably want to even put Charles Barkley ahead of him, just for the sense that Charles Barkley took a team in Phoenix without really having any All-Stars until like the end of his career, where he was definitely ring chasing. So I think this affects Kevin Durant in a big way.
You're saying Kevin Durant would be top 35 players of all time if when it's all said and done, if they win a couple championships?
Well, that's if.
What if they don't? If they don't with this roster, then it's even worse, right?
Oh, exactly. And the only reason I'm saying that is because if we're putting, which not me, because we hear these NBA legends and NBA Hall of Famers talk about it, like that matters. Yeah, you have championships, but it does matter on who your teammates are and how that kind of is.
Right.
And you hear multiple people say, like, yeah, like that's the weakest move that someone could have done in Kevin Durant's position, and him still being one of the greatest players in the world right now, debatable 1, 2, maybe even 3 if you throw Kawhi in there, your boy.
Thank you.
I just think that it's going to affect him in the long haul. I mean, the legends that we talk about, we don't put them in a sense that they had to go join certain teammates, or they had all this collaboration and this much talent on one team. We don't see that. We don't talk about them in a sense that happened. You know what I'm saying?
If we're talking about individual skill abilities, Kevin Durant's up there in the conversation with the best of all time. When we're talking legacies, I just, especially legacy, I can't throw him in the top 20.
That's what I'm saying.
His legacy without the absolute super team of the NBA is he couldn't get over the hump and get it done in OKC with a really good team as well. Right. So for me, they have to win multiple championships with this core of James, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant. Like multiple, not just one.
Oh, a three-peat. I would say a three-peat would definitely have to be in play.
Yeah, because I just don't see how you put these three gifted scorers together. And I think chemistry, it's funny, in this era, chemistry is a huge thing. The Miami Heat, even the Boston Celtics before with Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, it takes teams a little bit of time to figure out their chemistry and who's going to sacrifice. So far in Brooklyn, James Harden looks like he's sacrificed his 35 points per game for more of that point guard role. And I think that's good. I think that's good for them. Kyrie can slide into that. Allen Iverson, just be the two guard, be a scorer. And then Kevin Durant is Kevin Durant. With these new additions, I think their chemistry might be hurt a little bit because of rotations and how those two are going to adapt. I don't think Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond are going to come in trying to put up 20 points a game. So I don't think that's going to be a big thing. But at the same time, just defensive rotations and like how the coach is, how Steve Nash is going to rotate them in late game scenarios, what their lineups are going to be like together. Are you going to run a small lineup, a big lineup? Are you going to, you can do a bunch of different things, and these two new pieces potentially will throw a wrench in that chemistry. But from a legacy standpoint, Kevin Durant, if it would have just been him and Kyrie, like you were saying, and without the James Harden trade, I think it really would have been interesting if they would have won a championship. I think that would have improved his legacy in my mind, right? Because in the eras of big three, now I would like to see a duo win it all. And sure, yeah. So like Kawhi and Paul George, if they go over the hump, that's really impressive in this era. But I guess, and there's a lot of other teams that have duos as well. But when you have those 2, 3, 4 teams that can all win it all, and then all the good free agents that end up getting bought out, which is just kind of ridiculous in the NBA, that you can just get bought out or you can get cut and then like just go to a contender and still get paid. To me, it's just kind of like, what's the point of those teams trying to rebuild? Like, those teams have no chance of winning a championship, are just giving away their good players, and they're just all going to like the Lakers or the Clippers or, now the Nets or the Warriors. And so to me, it's just, again, still bad for basketball. And if they get Andre Drummond, I've been hearing some talking heads. I think that piece right there could be beneficial for the Nets against two players, in my opinion. Joel Embiid, if they run into them in the playoffs, and Giannis, because you don't have to guard Giannis's shooting, so he could be on the floor because you can counter him with Giannis because he's just basically scores inside. And then against Joel Embiid, his defense and rebounding and size could help against him. Instead of him going for 50 and 20, maybe he goes for 35 and 15 because of Drummond. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I think the pieces may ultimately work, but it's how much more firepower do you guys need? You know what I'm saying?
And not to mention, this is Kevin Durant's second team with that we know of right now, at least, with 5 All-Stars.
Right.
James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan was an All-Star. That's 5 All-Stars. This is his second team with 5 All-Stars. So that says something. And granted, honestly, you could make a case that 4 out of 5 of them are going to be Hall of Famers.
DeAndre Jordan not being one.
And that's the right now. I mean,
Right.
I don't know, maybe he wins a defensive player of the year or something that it sometimes it don't even take much to be in the NBA Hall of Fame, whether it's years down the line. But as of right now, we probably have 4 first ballot Hall of Famers on this team. And I think a lot of people don't talk about the coaching staff that much. Granted, whether we've seen Mike D'Antoni's system work, and this is kind of what it is, except we have a way better there's way better guard play than there was in Houston and in Phoenix.
Right.
But no, that Mike D'Antoni's a multiple-time coach of the year. Steve Nash, 2-time league MVP back-to-back. Granted, whether he deserved both of them or not, he still won.
He did not, but
no, we both agree on that. But either way, he won them. Amari Stoudemire was on the coaching staff, a great basketball mind. I mean, that's a whole like coaching staff that's just full of basketball knowledge. So my whole point of this is that if they don't win, it's good. That will be more shocking than if they win. Like just all the talent that's going to surround them is definitely going to be crazy. And like I said, if they get Andre Drummond, that's 6 All-Stars on one team.
Yeah, it's ridiculous to me.
That's kind of stupid, and I don't think that really does set a bad taste for basketball. Like, if you heard the last take we had in the last podcast about the All-Star game, this is going to make it ridiculous for basketball. If the Nets don't kind of go undefeated, granted or not, you can say whatever about Blake Griffin. I still don't think he's not a slouch. Like, he's going to go out there and compete. Whether he gets a bang out or not, he's still going to go compete. He's been competing. I just think he was just ready to move on from Detroit.
Well, and also, too, dudes who, let's say, had a legacy, then go to a place like Detroit, who has 0% chance of winning an NBA championship right now, or probably for the foreseeable future. Sure. Kind of no matter how good Blake Griffin is, and he's had to deal with injuries, and just Father Time is undefeated. Unless your name's LeBron James, technically. So like, I mean, his play is naturally going to decline because of the situation and, getting older and having to adapt his game, and also having to adapt his game to the style of play, let alone what his body can do. Right. But people are killing him in like the media saying he's just a straight bum. I don't think he's a bum. I think he can still contribute. I don't know if he's going to come off the bench for them. That'd be, I think, a nice addition off the bench. If that is his role, come in, there's no pressure. You don't have to be the guy. He's been the face of a franchise for his whole career pretty much. And so, yeah, like you said, I think his legacy is probably going to benefit the most from it. And we've seen this a lot throughout all sports, is guys who, get a little older, their situations haven't been good, and then they finally get a chance to decide where they want to go. And then, they pick and choose where maybe the best chance for them to get a ring. Sure. And I don't really fault people for doing that. What I fault people for is linking up with their best friends in the prime of their careers, or linking up with multiple best friends, and basically instead of choosing competition, you choose to just dominate. And then, you have no lack of accountability for your legacy because you're kind of just, it's in other people's hands, your other top 10 friends. And that's why I knock LeBron a lot, because of he had to go play with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. And I actually, before we hopped on, I was just watching the last 2 minutes of the Game 6 NBA Finals, where it was Miami versus San Antonio. And I saw an Instagram post about how LeBron had he either assisted or scored on the last 16 points. This is the game, the Ray Allen shot, if you remember. And that people are saying, on one hand, he either assisted or scored the last 16 points of the fourth quarter. He had an outstanding fourth quarter. People say, so all y'all bums talking about Ray Allen saved his career and his legacy. LeBron got them there. People are saying they wouldn't even been in that situation if it wasn't for LeBron. And other people are saying, well, and I went back and watched it. They're saying he was 0 for 2. He had 2 turnovers and he got scored on twice. And in the last 2 minutes of the game. So if Ray Allen doesn't hit that shot, he actually does literally lose that game for them. And so I wanted to go back and I watched it. And he did miss a couple field goals. He bricked the three and then he got it back off offensive rebound, made the three to put them down two. But he had a couple crucial turnovers. If Ray Allen doesn't hit that three, the Spurs win. We're having a completely different topic about LeBron and his career moving forward.
Completely different topic about Tim Duncan
and Kawhi. Yeah. And Tony Parker. Like, I mean, a lot of these dudes.
But Kawhi wasn't going to get MVP that year, though.
No, definitely not. But imagine if
Tim Duncan,
if he would have won just another championship on his resume with what he's done now.
Yeah. If they would have and if they would have repeated,
right. So yeah, basically my point is LeBron. I wanted to know, like, was it his fault? Or was it not? But he literally had Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and a team surrounded by him that fit his accolades the best. And to me, it's ridiculous that, I mean, he put himself in that position and he didn't get the job done, and that team wasn't built organically. And so now all these players are doing that and going and chasing rings with these other top 5 friends. And I can't respect Kevin Durant and LeBron in comparison to Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic. Like, I know they had super teams as well, but it wasn't how it is now. You know what I mean?
And not to mention, just to throw this out real quick, because it's all on the topic of LeBron. I think Anthony Davis needs to be kind of somewhat thrown in this category too, in the sense that he was ring chasing. He made it a big ordeal to really go to LA with New Orleans. Like, he made that he threatened himself that he'll sit out or whatever just to go to LA. And this culture we live in, I get it. I understand the scrutiny. Granted, I would never feel it or truly understand it, but I see the scrutiny with the players are given if they don't win a championship. I mean, I think Charles Barkley is the biggest one that still gets scrutinized at this day for not having one. Because we don't talk about Karl Malone in the same sense that we do Charles Barkley. Maybe because Charles Barkley's seen more on TV, but the scrutiny that's given to these players, I could see why they want to. But if that's the case, kind of wait till your later years, in the sense that you're just kind of there. You're being more of a veteran role. Anthony Davis is still in his prime. Like, right. He still has a lot more to offer. The same with Kevin Durant. So, like, the whole reason we're saying this is that the Nets have a stacked team. If they don't win, I think this whole Nets team is damn if you do, damn if you don't. If they do win, you're gonna be like, okay, well, you're gonna have to win a lot more to prove that this is really worth it. And if they don't, then you'd be like, well, what was all this for? Like, you put this phenomenal team together, like, on paper, and you lost. You lost everything. You couldn't even, if they don't make it to the finals, and that's a whole different story we're having.
Yeah, I think they definitely didn't need to make it to the finals this year. For sure.
They need to win this year. Like, I know we had another take on the previous podcast saying that for me, they need to win. There's no if, there's no and. It's either they have to win or not. And if they don't, I think that's going to – and even if they don't win this year, they do next year, there's no coming back from it. I think, okay, yeah, you have a chip, but no, I think you have to win now, especially all the talent you have. And supposedly you're all this great friends with this great chemistry. And it is showing right now that you are finding your groove and, like, getting somewhat a nice system going. But now, if they don't win, I think it really affects a lot of Kevin Durant and James Harden more so.
Yeah, I think Kevin Durant and James Harden have a chance to literally be in the same breath as, like, a top 5 all-time player with what they have accomplished up until this point and what they can still accomplish. I know some people literally are saying James Harden is the best scorer ever. I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
To me, and probably to you as well. I think the era, the officiating, the style of play, all of that attributes to him having, the MVP numbers and seasons. And that was mostly obviously in Houston. Not to say he's not a great scorer, but to that's another topic, so to speak. But and then Kevin Durant, James Harden needs championships to go along with the accolades that he's gotten. Kevin Durant needs, unfortunately, to win a championship without what he's doing right now. And I don't see him doing that anytime soon. So I truly don't see his legacy getting better in my eyes at all. The only way it could do is it could get worse if he doesn't win multiple championships, like you said. And I think Kyrie, he's not going to be a top 3 point guard of all time. He's ridden the coattails of LeBron and now, KD and James Harden.
And we've seen Kyrie's leadership. It's not that good at all.
Right. And if he would have done something special in Boston, like Kawhi did in Toronto, maybe we're having a little bit different conversation, but,
sure. Yeah.
He's not that guy. So I think his legacy is just, he's kind of a great number 2, number 3 guy. When you're talking about Kyrie Irving being like potentially your number 3 option, that's ridiculous. He's, you know what I mean? And that's why I kind of have a problem with some of these teams have 2-3 centers. They pick and choose DeMarcus Cousins, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, Anthony Davis, whether you think those guys individually are, that great or not, how are they all on one team together? So for me, I think like Giannis, if the Nets right now, I think they should win a championship on paper. Defensively, they really need to figure it out. And if they get Drummond, I think that'll be a big addition for that. But if I can only see them, my expectation for them lowering a little bit is if Dame goes to the Bucks or something, if another crazy super team happens where Giannis joins Paul George and Kawhi on the Clippers, then it's okay, they have another Thanos to play. But for now,
if this prediction real quick, if Kyle Lowry going to the Clippers, I think it's over for a lot of people. I think it's over for the Lakers, and I think that the Nets have a situation on that.
And see, I love your Kyle Lowry to the Clippers. I don't know what to call it, dream, so to speak.
Hope, wish.
Yeah, if he does, I think, and see, that's not a star-studded, oh my gosh, kind of move. I think that's a great basketball, organically building a team move. He's not a superstar. He's not an all-star. He's a great role player who had some really good years, has championship pedigree, and would fit that team like a glove, fit right in like a glove and be the glue that could make them really a championship contender. Right. But what the Nets, like I said, if you can't have Damian Lillard and Giannis, and try and throw someone else in here, and Dame Lillard, Giannis, and Julius Randle, and they get LaMarcus Aldridge and CJ McCollum comes too, and they all go to New York. What are we? Imagine that happening. That's basically what happened in Brooklyn. And so it's you can't. What happens to all those franchises when their star players leave? They have zero. They have to rebuild for 5 to 10 years, and then it's just it's a shit show. So the Nets, I'm starting to come around as this podcast is happening. The Nets better fucking win a championship. Multiple, I'm telling you right now.
And to add to this, to Kevin Durant, he needs to win the MVP. He needs to win not the league MVP, but
the Finals MVP.
He has to if he wants his legacy to be what it could potentially be, and for how great he is. He needs to win the MVP, and that goes for saying you have 3 legitimate people that can be MVPs, and he has to do something. And I'd say he's still in the team in scoring, but he's gonna have to do a lot more to stick out for that to really happen, in my opinion, because that matters. You know what I'm saying? That does matter in the long haul of it all. Because Magic probably only had 2 or 3 MVPs in the finals. Kareem, I think, won one, and James Worthy won one. and that's with Magic. So I mean, that does hold some clout towards your legacy if you don't have those Finals MVPs. If Kyrie wins one and they three-peat, Kevin Durant a certain way, like
100%.
because you're supposed to be this great player, this great, and he is, but just the things he does and the things he needs to do to elevate to that kind of legacy that I know he wants and he hopefully will get. He needs to win those MVPs. I really thought he might have won a league MVP this year, but they keep the COVID situation that keep happening with him, and then like him saying he needs to rest because of his body injuries and whatnot. I thought he was on his way to become a league MVP. I think that would have helped out somewhat if he would have got a second league MVP. Because I don't see him getting 2 or 3 or 3 or 4 at all.
Well, like you said, I think I guess a feather in his cap would be he goes to the Warriors and wins Finals MVP, and then if he goes to the Nets and wins more Finals MVPs, I guess you could say, yeah, like he's the reason. Like he was the bona fide number one, and he took 2 franchises, to the Finals and won them chips. So I guess in that sense, you could. I mean, he's got to do it. Like, imagine if James Harden goes bananas. That would be completely detrimental. I'm throwing Dirk Nowitzki over Kevin Durant in legacy wise, 10 out of 10 times.
As of right now, yeah. Dirk just did so much more on a franchise he stayed with his whole career. And I didn't even bring this point up, but if James Harden does end up winning an MVP, let's say they three-peat and he wins one of them, that actually helps James Harden's case to better his legacy.
Yeah.
Just because he's already a league MVP, he knew he was gonna be. He switched his role from being more of a scorer to more of a distributor on this team, and I think that just helped his case if he does become the Finals MVP. I really don't see Kyrie being the Finals MVP, whether or not he leads them in the Finals in scoring, just because he did lead the Cavaliers in scoring the year they won, but they gave it to LeBron because it's LeBron. But yeah, I just don't think we could hold Kevin Durant in the same breath in LeBron in this sense, and saying like the teams did need LeBron to go to the Finals in a sense, like you know what I'm saying, like those Miami Heat teams with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade, they probably could have made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Will they have won the finals? Maybe not against maybe against the Oklahoma City Thunder because they were all really young. Maybe they could have won that one.
Mm-hmm.
But against that Dallas team and against the Spurs, I don't think they would have won without having LeBron. Cleveland obviously wouldn't have won without LeBron. Yeah, people take into consideration the 10 trips LeBron's made to the finals. I guess it's impressive to some people, but to me, that's not, because you lost so many times. That's just not that impressive because Jerry West went just as many times, and granted he only won one, but he's the only player to also win an MVP and lose the series. And you know what I'm saying? I think that's more impressive than going to the finals 10 times and winning, 4 chips. Bill Russell's been there plenty of times, obviously. I don't know his complete record, but he's definitely 11 and something. But yeah, all this to say is I think that a lot of this with the Nets, Kevin Durant needs to just focus more on becoming like the MVP of the finals, if that's the case, to change his legacy.
Yeah, I think I guess in conclusion for me, I just think I can no longer truly compare legacies all time between guys like Michael Jordan, even Kobe Bryant, Magic, Larry, to the people of 2010, 2015 and beyond. Because I don't see how you can truly put like a Kevin Durant and a Michael Jordan or a Charles Barkley in the same argument, because one's chasing with literally like top 5 players at their positions, like multiple top 5 players at their positions on the team, and the others, have stuck with one team and then built a true roster around them, and then ended up potentially winning a championship or not. I think in this era, if Damian Lillard wins one without creating a super duper team, or Giannis, or if a duo like Kawhi and Paul George win one, I think those, if anything, it helps those guys, because look at the Goliaths that they had to go through.
Yeah.
But the Nets and even the Lakers, like, LeBron, I think if LeBron would have went to the Lakers and stuck with that core of Lonzo and Kuzma, Josh Hart, like those, and Brandon Ingram, if he would have went into a team and then brought his presence and then maybe added a piece or two role player wise to fit, and then they won a championship, we're having a completely different conversation about LeBron, in my opinion. Sure. But when you have to just shred and gut an entire roster to fit it around your style and your wants, and you have to go get literally one of the best players in the league in Anthony Davis, and you still wanted Kawhi and you still want all these pieces, like, I think it's just kind of ridiculous that how could I lose respect in the legacy department and how your career is as a whole if you have to do that to win championships. And I get it that people were trying to knock the Warriors off their peg. And so you're not going to beat them without a super team. I don't think they should have ever gotten to I think their magical 73-9 season was magical. That's great. But Kevin Durant going there was kind of the cherry on top to, like, okay, well, the NBA championship accolades just don't matter to me anymore, because how do you fucking lose to them when you should have beat them and then go join them? Like,
right.
I mean, I don't think you can, that's like cheating on someone with their mom. Like, you can't do that. Like, and so then every other team now is like, well, we're not going to win either, so we have to do that. And it's just, it's a shit show, and there's no parity. So Kevin Durant, you better win 5 straight. You better win Finals MVP.
I think that too. And just for our own safety, we don't know if Kevin Durant's asking for these trades, and it could just be the not the trades, but like to get these players, or it could just be the organization. But I guarantee you they run this shit by him. At least he knows about it beforehand, so he has a say in it. But yeah, I think it's a real bad look.
Or he would, maybe he's not asking, go get this, go get that, go get this.
No, but I'm saying he has to he puts his opinion. I'm pretty sure they asked for his opinion.
Yeah, and why would they feel necessary to go pick up these bought out players or these star veteran players if, you got 3 of the best dudes on the planet? What more do you need? How about you just get in the gym, get some shell drill going, and focus on the defensive side of the floor instead of just going and picking up dudes who will just plug that hole? Because you're taking that dude from another team, making them weaker because they have no chance of winning a championship. And so they're just rebuilding and just, letting other guys get some burn. I'm not saying Kevin Durant's knocking on so-and-so's door saying, hey, man, I need some help. James Harden and Kyrie Irving, they're not going to cut it.
Yeah.
But he's not probably actively, like Jordan never had, like they say, like Jerry Krause is the one who put the team together, and Jordan made do with what he had, in Phil's offense. He didn't go say, hey, man, like, I need Charles Barkley here. You know what I mean? Like, no, he stepped his team up in his play and made his teammates better around to elevate their play. And he had high expectations for all of his teammates. But
exactly,
this whole thing of, man, I can't win, I want to go join my friends who are also superstars. It's ridiculous. You better win if you're going to do it.
Oh, for sure. And I hope for his sake, because he is one of my, favorite players. I do hope for his sake they do win multiple, and he is the Finals MVP, and this does change the narrative around him. But we'll see. I do think this is real shitty, and I do think that having potentially six players who are all-stars on one team, They got to win. They just need to win. If they don't, it's going to really affect his legacy in a bad way.
I think Kawhi is going to lock him up in the finals, and my boy Kawhi going to end that legacy, just like he did the Warriors.
But yeah.
Whew, I mean, we got a lot off our chest on the Nets.
We did, and I'm hoping there'll probably be a lot more. But yeah, I think that's
So this is a good little episode of the Test Run Podcast. I guess write in the comments if you think Kevin Durant, if this helps or hurts his legacy, and tell us how good of a job we're doing or
how shitty of a job we're doing.
All right, yeah. Shit, that's all we got for this one.
That's it.
We'll be back on the next one.
So tune in, like, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit, y'all.
All right, y'all. Streets.